What is good, everybody? Welcome back to episode 16 of FBS Fridays on the Blitz City Podcast. And I'm here with the Blue Bloods. My co-host, Clay McCarter, could not make it today. You know how work is sometimes. And Kelly, I think Kelly will be back. I think something happened technically, but Kelly is here. He'll be back. But, Blue, I want to start it off because I saw this and I was like, this should be a no-brainer. But then I started thinking about it. I'm like, this ain't really as easy for me. So, I mean, start bench cut, OBJ, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. Now, you may not agree with me, right? But I'm gonna start Justin Jefferson. Matter of fact, no, I'm gonna start OBJ. I'm gonna bench Justin Jefferson. I'm gonna cut Chase, and I'm gonna tell you why. Their career stats are, other than touchdowns, it's kind of similar yards wise. Odell didn't have a Joe Burrow throwing to him. He did not have a Joe Burrow, but he still had 2,300 receiving yards in his career, averaged 16.4 yards a catch, and he only had 12 touchdowns when Jamar and Justin had like 23 and 24 touchdowns in a career. But the yards, it's similar. It's similar, even though he did not have a Joe Burrow. So, I mean, for me, I'm a keep OBJ just for that. I'm going to bench Justin Jefferson, and I'm going to cut. And I don't want to cut Chase because Chase is my favorite, but I'm going to cut Chase. What's y'all's?
Okay, so are we basing this strictly off of college?
Yeah, like off of college.
Okay, because I was about to say NFL, if we're doing right now, OBJ is gone, bro. We cutting him immediately.
Yeah.
But college, oh, man, it's so tough. I'm going to say, oh, man, this might be controversial. I'm going to start Jefferson, bench Chase, and cut OBJ. I really listen because here's why. I think Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, the ceiling, especially, man, if I get them for a college year, is stupid together. And I think I don't even care if you gave OBJ, Joe Burrow, all these great quarterbacks. I just think Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson are those guys. And to me, I'm a huge Justin Jefferson fan, man. He's one of my favorite players right now to watch in the first place. I think his athleticism matched with his size, his route running, his ability to high point the ball. OBJ's spectacular. He can make the insane catches. But I think technically Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase have a chance to be better receivers than him. And I think Justin Jefferson has the highest ceiling out of any of them.
Well, if we're talking LSU, right? I got to take Jamar Chase, man. He sat out a whole year and was still a top 5 pick in the NFL. Like, that kind of says something about that skill and really what that season meant for LSU and for him. So I'll start him. On the bench, it's going to be OBJ. You know what I mean? What Odell did for LSU at a time when LSU had really bad quarterback play, quite honestly. I mean, the quarterback was pretty mid, right? What he and Jarvis Landry did, you know what I mean, was really kind of like a landmark moment for LSU receivers. And they started something, you know what I mean? I kind of look at them kind of like as trailblazers. And even Odell Beckham wearing number 33. Receivers wear 33 because of him, because of that. So it's kind of like a legend over there. So I can't cut him, but I'll bench him. And then we'll have to cut Jay Jettis only for LSU, okay? But like in the pros, I would start him.
But yeah, pros, no question, bro. It has to be Jettis, man. That man is crazy.
I know this is a college football show. I've got to ask you because I had this debate with one of my good friends, and and this is away from college for just a second. Do you guys think in Vikings history, Justin Jefferson has surpassed Randy Moss over his first few years?
I ain't ready to go there yet. I'm not ready to go there yet.
Like, hang on. I just want to say, statistically, he definitely has. But like, do you guys feel like when it's all said and done, it's going to be a real conversation on like who's 1 or 2 in Vikings history?
It can be. I still feel like it's so early because how many guys have we seen start off so great and then just flame out? Like, that longevity is a real thing. Like, that has to be a real part of this conversation. I'm not saying that it's going to happen to him. I think he's on course for that to be a real conversation. If he can stay healthy and his longevity is what it should be, then yes, it will be a conversation down the road that has to be had because he has the talent to surpass Randy Moss right now. But I still feel like it's too early to tell. Like, he got a great start, but I gotta see.
Yeah, numbers are not. If he left the Vikings today, he would not be considered better than Randy Moss, just based on the fact of the longevity and what Randy did for them. What Jettis has done, though, his numbers are pretty crazy. You know what I mean? I think if he stays there 5 more years, he's a shoo-in to be like the greatest Vikings wide receiver, especially given the extra games in the NFL season. So statistically, you're going to beat every record. So it's kind of hard not to name him that. But we'll see. You know, Stephon Diggs was on that path also before he moved to the Bills. So we'll see how long he stays.
That was my okay. I wanted to make sure I went crazy because I said the same thing, but man, like my guy was already saying JJ should be above him, and I'm like, that's bro. I don't think you understand. We're talking about Randy Moss. Like if it was any other team,
like let me say this right. I've never seen somebody say, "Oh, this corner is Randy Moss's daddy." Jair Alexander is Justin Jefferson's daddy right now. Let's be real with that. You know,
he locked him up.
Yeah, until he can beat that, I'm not ready to put him where Randy is right now.
I'm with you.
Valid.
All right, so next topic, right? Michigan head coach John Harbaugh lied to the NCAA about recruiting violations and will most likely be suspended 4 games. That's cool, whatever. My problem is his first 4 games is ECU, UNLV, Bowling Green, and Rutgers. What kind of punishment? I'm so sick of these slap on the wrist punishments, man. Either we gonna punish these things like the way they need to be, or we just not gonna care about recruiting violations no more. Because they've been happening. I mean, y'all saw the Johnny football thing about to come out, man. Rules been being broken in college football. Either we gonna really punish these things the way it needs to be, or we not. But that team can go out there on their own. They can get on the plane by themselves and beat ECU, UNLV, Bowling Green, and Rutgers. Like, they don't even need Harbaugh for this. This is a vacation for this man. But what's y'all take on this?
I think do we talk about this last episode too? Where like the NCAA, I mean, unless you're really gonna punish people, it's just. But like I also get on the flip side with this. This is a little bit different than the Tennessee situation because vacating wins is even worse. But you can't really. The weird thing is like these games are scheduled so far in advance, so you have to suspend them for the first 4 or 5 games, and it's like you can't move up his biggest games because the only way to get to the big games, let's be honest, in the Big Ten this year for Michigan, we got 3 big games maybe? Michigan State, Penn State, Ohio State. So you might have to suspend them 8, 10, or 12 games. It's like, but that's an overkill for like the violation that he had. So at the end of the day, I'm cool with it. I mean, you can't suspend the dude and be like, we're suspending him 9 games solely so he misses the Michigan State game or something like that. You have to pick a solid number. And so I'm cool with it, but it does kind of suck that, you know, it's games that me, you, or Kelly could go and coach and probably get a win.
Hey, Zoe, we gonna bring that up for the very next topic. Just because
that's why I'm wearing the all black. So that's why I'm wearing the all black. But I mean, Blue, look, to your point, right? You can't. I thought about this. I took an extra week to think about it, right? And I tried to figure out how can we get them. Okay, so I figured it out. You suspend them for the first 4 conference games. Those are games that matter.
I like that.
No matter who's it's against, it matters. That loss would hurt more than a non-conference loss. I think that's kind of the only way to do things. But yeah, now the NCAA, and they're notoriously slapping guys on wrists. It's just not enough at this point. It's like, why are you even sending these notices to the school? Like, it doesn't matter. It won't affect the season or anything like that. I'm sure Harbaugh would just be sitting like up in the suite somewhere anyway.
Yeah. I mean, and I think this gets back to what we were saying earlier is for recruiting violations, can we get some recruiting punishments? Why don't we lose 4 scholarships this next year or lose 4 official visits? Or something like that, something tangible that affects recruiting, which is exactly what he was lying about or, you know, cheating about or whatever you want to say. Punish if it's recruiting violations, give them recruiting punishments. If it's an on-field program violation, then yeah, give them on-field punishments. But it just feels like nothing's matching up. There should be a different set of punishments for recruiting rather than having on-field punishments for recruiting violations.
Facts. All right, so let's get to the. Oh, you want to say something, Kevin?
Nah, we get into it now.
Yeah, I mean, Zona brother, we got to talk about it. All right. I didn't add the question, but we all know there's more than Colorado just moving to the Big Ten now. But I mean, the Big 12 conference has unanimously voted to accept Colorado into the conference. They're going to receive $31.7 million annually in TV revenue. And now the news came out that Oregon is leaving and Washington is leaving. So the Pac-12 is essentially dead now. RIP, I'm going to miss it just because I just felt like we had such a we had an easier run to the championship than others, and now we legitimately have to work. How y'all feel about this, man? This is a big moment in college football right now. How do y'all feel?
I think we all saw it coming, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we knew what this was going to be. Now, I am surprised the Big 12 is making their move. Like, props to them and their commissioner, because everyone counted them out compared to even the ACC. It was the Pac-12 is going to fall first, then it's going to be the Big 12, then maybe the ACC. It's been like the Big 12 is saying, listen, man, we're going to stay around, so we might have a Power 3. So shout out to them. It makes sense. And I think the Big 12, if I'm not mistaken, are already in talks with Arizona State, Arizona, some of these other schools to bring them in and potentially get to even more teams. So I love that the Big 12 on one side was active, proactive, and knew what was coming. So they had to make their move. Now, for the other teams, I don't blame them, because we all know the longer you sat there and did nothing, your spot was going to be taken by somebody. And at the end of the day, the quicker you get in there, the quicker you get a piece of that pot, because we know at the end of the day, that media deal was negotiated with X number of teams involved. So the more teams you add to that pot, your piece gets a little bit smaller. And so now they're adding this thing where you're not going to be a full member in terms of what is it, like TV revenue? Like you only get like a percentage, and then the next media deal you become a full, member of the conference and get that full revenue deal. So I like how they did it. And Zoe put in the chat, Arizona State and Utah already out as well. Yep. I mean, it's a wrap for the Pac-12, man. It's going to be a Power 4, and I really think it's going to be a Power 3, because I think Florida State, Clemson on the way out, and North Carolina and Duke are going to get picked up by someone as well. And we're going to see the demolishment of the ACC next, and that'll probably be coming sometime later this year.
I've actually been hearing things about that. First of all, Clemson, I'm hearing Clemson and Florida State, like they definitely out of here. Like they looking right now. So the ACC is definitely dead. But just like as for the Big Ten, right? As an Oregon fan, like the fact that we now have to, first of all, Illinois is better. Okay, so like you can't really skate by anybody no more. Michigan, Ohio State, my God, man. Then Washington's following us. That's bad enough. I didn't even want them to come with us. They're there. I don't know. I've been thinking about this a lot in terms of like these big moves to bigger conferences. Whoever makes it out of that conference, though, is going to be beaten up pretty bad. You got to think, like, are we still going to see multiple undefeated teams? Like, by the time the playoffs start, or like, are these teams going to come into it with 2 to 3 losses? Because it seems like everybody's going to have to go through a gauntlet from now on. And I would not want to be in the SEC right now. Like, it seems like everybody has to go through a gauntlet, and it's just pretty damn brutal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a sad day, man. This is a sad day for all my West Coasters. You feel me? All my Pac-12 fans. You know what I mean? Rest in peace to our beloved conference. You know what I mean? The Pac-12. It was holding it down for the whole West Side. California, all up the coast, Oregon, Washington. It's over. I will say, you know what I mean, as a Pac-12 fan, you know what I mean, growing up in the Pac-12 geological location, we saw this. The writing was on the wall, man. What Larry Scott was doing, our past commissioner, what he was doing up in San Francisco, wasting all this money on headquarters, the media deal that he had beforehand was bad too. The reason the whole Pac-12 after dark situation was because the media deal was so bad. So the writing had been on the wall. I think what really sealed the deal was this past week when the Pac-12 commissioner brings in all the Pac-12 teams and tells them about this majority streaming deal for Apple TV that's based on subscriptions, and you have to gain subscriptions to make more money. It just didn't make enough sense. And I think the writing on the wall was that the money ran out. I think the media money actually ran out, and now they're stuck to this subscription-based streaming deal that wasn't going to work, and the rest of the teams jumped ship. So I'm sad to see the Pac-12 go, and I'm not gonna lie, man. Like as Pac-12 guy, kind of confused now. You know what I mean? I don't know much about the Big 12. I don't know much about the Big 10. You know what I mean? These are different conferences for me. I don't know much about these teams.
And you know what? Another thought I had, the Pac-12 just like announced a few weeks ago that they were going to try to revolutionize the way they broadcast college football. You know, like they were going to have cameras inside the locker room before the game and at halftime, and more interviews during the game and through pauses and everything like that, just to get the engagement and interaction, like, to be more enjoyable for the fans. Somebody has to adopt that, because I do think those were great ideas, and I hope that doesn't get lost now that the Pac-12 is leaving.
Yeah, I mean, that also could have been that probably was the first sign, right? That they were a little bit desperate in terms of like how to get there. And at the end of the day, I think this goes back to what I say, because, you know, all of us covering HBCU FCS football, we know that level is regional, but college football in a whole is a very regional sport anyway. And it's tough, man, to get people to care about college football as much as some of the smaller cities in the South do when you're playing in Los Angeles. And it's hard to get people to stay up and watch Oregon play if they're kicking off at 9:30. And even harder, God forbid, if you got Washington State and Arizona State kicking off at 10:45. I mean, you got to be a die-hard college football fan to stay up and get a majority of the people to stay up and watch that, especially on the East Coast, where it might, the game ends at 1, 2 o'clock sometimes. Yeah, depending on what you have. So it's tough, but I don't blame any of the Pac-12 teams for doing what they're doing, man. You had to get in when you could. And at the end of the day, the other Pac-12 teams, let's be honest, they're going to go somewhere else. The Big 12 is going to pick up the rest of them. And then there's some probably going to join the Big 10. And if there's someone who's left out, that they might drop down and join the Mountain West and be a big dog in a smaller pond. And man, there's even been rumors. I mean, I don't know how true they are, but the Ivy League has looked into adding Stanford.
Whoa.
And so that could be something as well. And so there's a whole lot of moving pieces here. But I think at the end of the day, what you're going to see is the Pac-12 dissolve. You're going to get a Power 4, and then the Mountain West might get lucky and get one or two of those Pac-12 teams that got left out hanging. But I don't think this has any impact past that for the most part.
So Stanford would move down.
I mean, because they could do what Villanova does.
Okay.
I mean, and have some sports, but that's just a rumor out there that the Ivy League has looked into that, but there's no confirmation depending on what Stanford does. But I think Stanford would try to get in somewhere. Maybe they join the Big Ten too, because academically it would make sense for Stanford to be in the Big Ten, because the Big Ten is one of the stronger academic Power 5 conferences. So they would qualify. Some of these other Pac-12 schools aren't going to qualify academically to join the Big Ten because their academic standards are a certain level. That's the other moving piece to that, is who's going to get left out because of that. But I don't think the Big 12 is going to turn down anybody. Let's be honest. The bigger you can get it, the more people you can get in the boat, especially when you're in an arms race with the SEC and Big 10, the better. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Big 12 is reaching out to other ACC teams. They already got West Virginia. You're already on the East Coast. Why don't you go pick up Virginia Tech? Some of these teams, and load your boat even more and prepare for this ultimate arms war between the Big 10 SEC.
And Nicholas Malachi, the 12-team playoffs is the season after this one, so
yeah,
that's when it'll be here.
And they might expand it even more now.
Guys, just expanding on what Blue was saying, this is, welcome to the age of super conferences. Like, this is it. We kind of saw a glimpse of this in like 2013 when there was realignment going on, and there was talks about it and rumors of something like this happening, mega conferences. But now we're truly seeing it. I think with the collapse of the Pac-12, it was just opening for other conferences to collapse. Honestly, we see how easy it is to do it. After you pull the biggest teams from the conference, pretty much the rest of the conference crumbles. And it's all about media deals. Like Blue was saying, when it comes to who's going to grab somebody next, I definitely could see the Big 12 still being on the hunt. But a conference like the ACC is the one that's the most interesting to me, because they've kind of sat quiet during all of this expansion and all these moves. And really 6 or 7 teams said they wanted to leave at one point. Now they're back. They're locked into like a 10-year media deal right now. I'm trying to figure out who wants to leave, who wants to stay. But I think that might be the next domino to fall, the ACC.
I keep seeing these articles on the Magnificent Seven, and North Carolina State, Clemson, Florida State, North Carolina leading the pack of schools who want to leave. So I imagine they will be like the first to go. But I want to keep on the topic of Colorado, right? And Coach Brown. We saw the comments with the comment from Brett Venables at Oklahoma. Now they're going to be in the same conference next year in 2024. But, just like other coaches have, he made a comment about how, he gives guys a grace period, and Coach Prime didn't really do that. He just let those guys go. Obviously, head coaches don't like the way that Coach Prime goes about the things that he does, and that's fine. They don't have to be fans of it, even though I think the comments are a little unnecessary. But overall, this move to the Big 12, is it gonna deter him a little bit? Like, is it gonna set him back as far as the progress he was set to make, or is this gonna work in his favor when it comes to building this program of Colorado up, being in the Big 12 now?
I will say they're not going to be in the same conference next year. Oklahoma's out of there. They're going to the SEC. They're going to the SEC.
Oh
with
yeah,
Texas.
no, okay, yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, so
Texas.
they won't be in the same conference. And I mean, listen, we saw this at the HBCU level.
Mm-hmm.
Prime rubs a lot of people the wrong way. Let's just keep it a bug. Especially because we saw it in the HBCU space. Do you remember the narrative when Prime first got hired after his first or second season, where everyone was asking, is it fair that he got this opportunity over coaches who have worked and kind of built their way up in the ranks? You don't think that's even more extreme at the Power 5 level? You've got some dudes who have been working up through the ranks for 20 something years to try to get a job like that. And he just steps in after coaching 3 years at the FCS level. If you don't think that rubbed so many people the wrong way, and the thing that's different in this space, outside of maybe one or two, we saw Trey Oliver after the Celebration Bowl say something, and we saw Eddie Robb and Connell Maynard. So 3 guys really said something at the FCS level. Man, the Power 5 coaches don't care. They'll take shots and not think twice about it. They're not intimidated or scared to call out Prime, because they got as much clout as he does. Especially some of the bigger coaches, they're not afraid of that.
Exactly.
Some of the coaches, when he was coaching at Jackson, weren't going to call him out, because how are you going to fight that media battle? You weren't backed by Oklahoma. You weren't backed by Alabama. You weren't backed by Georgia. So at the end of the day, it's different strategies. Venables is an old school head coach, an old school D coordinator who I want to remind people, he cut his teeth at Clemson as a D coordinator, where Dabo Swinney doesn't even take transfers. So are we really surprised that this is how he felt about cutting your whole team and going to get 80 players out of the transfer portal? It's good, and we're going to find out what strategy works. I would lean, if I was Venables, not getting beat by 49 points by Texas my first year before saying something. But at the same time, he's got a right to express his opinion, and it is what it is.
And when it comes to I didn't mean to cut you off, Kelly, but when it comes to people feeling like he don't deserve it, I do understand that. But at the same time, how many of those guys would have been at Jackson State and would have been able to get the number 1 recruit in the country, the number 1 slot receiver in the country? How many people can do what he does in that recruiting space? So it's like, I get, they kind of feel like, well, he doesn't really deserve it over me. But I mean, the impact this man has can't really be denied in that aspect.
Yeah, I know offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators that can't be a head coach. It takes a special type of guy, type of leader to be a head coach. You don't just become a head coach because that's just the next way up. No, some people are lifetime coordinators. And that's what it is. But aside from that, when it comes to how Coach Prime runs his program, a lot of people don't like it. A lot of people, they just don't like it. Like Blue is saying, when you're up against these other Power 5 programs where they have a whole community, a whole college, a whole alumni association, a whole town essentially behind them, and they're at their local radio show saying this, they're gassed up and they're not going to back down. But the issue I have with this is that Deion ain't the only one doing it. Deion is not the only one doing it. If you look across the college football space, FBS or FCS, people getting cut left and right, dog. People are getting cut left and right. They hop in the transfer portal because they have to. You know what I mean? And to take kind of like Prime and say like, I'm just going to go at you, Prime, that's just because Prime rubs people the wrong way to me. You know what I mean? Because there's plenty of other coaches you could have took this shot on. Plenty of other coaches. But he chose Prime for a reason. So I think that's just the way Coach Prime kind of rolls. He runs a different program. Either you like it or you don't like it. And sometimes it's not so player-centric. But the guys that he has in there, that's his family. That's his family. And that's just how he rolls.
You think it's because like he don't wear the khakis and the collar shirt, like he got the chains on, he got the swag, like he real swagged out, about himself.
Well, the approach he's taking. Think about the approach that he's taking with a 1-11 team. You know what I mean? This type of approach that I don't need everybody. I'm bringing people that I want to a 1-11 team. To like a coach that brings his hard hat and his pill to work every day and doesn't allow transfers. He's gonna hate that. Like that defensive coordinator would not sign up to be with Prime. He wouldn't get with that program. So only certain people kind of get with this. I think that a lot of people run the same program that Prime runs, but they're not as vocal about it. And they're not Coach Prime.
Yeah, and I also think, I don't know how much this actually plays. This is my take on it. People who really aren't plugged into college football really don't realize how deep these connections runs in terms of coaching clinics, in terms of the different coaching events you need to go to, in terms of like speaking at coaching engagements for the different athletic associations on the high school level, things like that. Prime's not that guy. Prime didn't cut his teeth in terms of making those connections on the high school recruiting trail, being in those same rooms where you all have to give a speech in front of these high school coaches. He runs in his own circle. He has his own different approach. So the fact that he's not part of that quote unquote coaching fraternity, because Venables probably has relationships with 75% of a head coach at Power 5 some way or another through some weird tree. Prime's not connected to damn near anybody. So the fact that it's also that they look at him as an outsider in that regard only adds to the fact that they're going to call him out first before calling out one of their personal connections.
Hey, while we got this question on screen, Blue, I actually wanted to ask, because I saw Joshua Sims, my guy, creator of HBCU Nightly, shout out to Josh. He said something about a coalition going on with the people are talking for HBCUs as a group to try to move to the FBS. Is there any moves behind that? Is there any smoke behind that?
Now, I don't know if there's been a conversation, but I don't think it's a good move. I've been vocal. Listen, I talked to both of you guys last week about this. Anyone from the FCS right now that's willing to take a risk at jumping to the next level with so much turmoil, confusion, not knowing what's coming next.
They just raised the requirements, didn't they?
Yeah, they just raised the requirements. You are taking an expensive gamble into the unknown. Because, yes, it sounds great, but here's the problem. Taking a coalition, the NCAA isn't even going to approve that because NCAA, you can't form a conference from FCS to FBS. You have to join a conference. Yeah. So what you would need is the CUSA, the AAC, the Sun Belt, to invite 12 HBCUs. If you none of those conferences are ready to take 12 FCS teams, you missed that boat. And those conferences aren't about to get poached. No one's going to try to get Louisiana Lafayette to join the SEC. It's not going to happen. It's just not there. So those conferences are already at 14, 16, potentially 18 teams with some of the teams that are already scheduled to move up. The piece of the pie that you think you're getting is not there. And we've already talked about this. And this might be a whole ramble here, and I want to get y'all's opinions on it too. Bowl games we're overpopulated with bowl games. They have bowl games last year that they had to cancel because not enough teams qualified to even make bowl games. And then if you're under 500, guess what they base eligibility on? APR. Do you know what kind of schools those affect the most? FCS and HBCU specifically. So you're not even going to be able to get the big bowl game check that you think, because you're going to be in a 27 league team or conference, and half the league's going to be under 500. So what bowl game are you going to? And so for me, it just seems like a short-sighted goal. And the reason it bothers me is because everyone always preaches this thing like, don't look at the FCS as a sub-level to, FBS. These are not Power 5 teams. These are not Group of 5 teams. We're all Division I. By making a short-sighted I guess, excited jump to the next level, you are absolutely being short-sighted in terms of the safety. And Coach Green is wrong. You cannot move up as a conference unless you were already a division, already an FBS conference. The only conference in the FCS that has a charter to move up together is the WAC, who just combined with another conference because the WAC was already an FBS conference back when Boise State, Hawaii, and all of them were in it before the WAC dissolved. So the SWAC cannot just say we're moving up to FBS. That is literally in the NCAA bylaws. So you would have to get the NCAA to approve that and go through all the steps, which means it literally can't happen right now. And so I want to get y'all's opinion, but to me, the FCS, if you're an FCS team, you're strapped on funding, you don't have necessarily a home right now or an invitation, bro, you are literally risking looking like FAM or some of these other schools that have tried this move up and fall flat on your face. Idaho did it recently and had to come back down. Savannah State from D2 to FCS. Bro, what are you stepping out on? And Frank, I don't think it's faith. I think it's literally for those type of moves, you have to have facts, money, all this laid out. You can't just step out on faith and then let your athletic program suffer for the next 25 years.
Yeah, but KJ, what's up? Shout out KJ.
Right,
Kelly, who's gonna say something?
Yeah, I mean, come on, moving to FBS is an institutional move. Like, we got to stop thinking like this is just a football move for this football team for the next year. Like, this is a long-term move. Requires a lot of money, a lot of investment, and really it has to be in line with the institution's long-term plans. You can't just be off a whim because we have a good season. Let's go move up FBS. So first, I don't think the group move is going to work, right? I don't think bringing a group of HBCUs up to FBS is going to work. I honestly feel like it's going to be an every man for himself type of thing. Sorry, but I think it's going to be like that. And when it comes down to if one team can break through and go FBS, well, what conference are you going to go to? Conferences are dissolving by the week at this point. With the Pac-12 dissolving, you got to think about the Sun Belt and the Conference USA, what type of use they will get. Like, they're going to be playing money games against Power 5 teams. So if you want to move up from FCS to FBS, you might end up in the Conference USA or the Sun Belt. And those might not be favorable conferences at this point when you got a lot of mega conferences coming out now. You got the Big Ten, the SEC becoming conferences with 20-plus teams. I think you could be stuck on the wrong side if you just try to hop up now. If you don't have an invite from the SEC or from the Big Ten, don't do it.
Yeah, honestly, with the way things are moving right now, like, what's the number that you even have to pay to get to the FBS now? Because they raised it. I know
It's like $5 million is just the fee. Then when you look at the extra scholarships you have to add on, it's like $6 million off of that. So the minimum you're paying is 11 to 12 million. Then on top of that, some of these schools that want to move up don't even have enough sports to move up. So now you're talking about starting and funding a whole nother sport or two, which puts you in the 20-30 million range. No one's forking that out right now to take a risk like that to move up. And if they do, I hope it works. It'd be great to see. But man, it just seems like when you make like a pros con list, you absolutely have way more cons than pros. Because here's how I feel. Like, yes, it sounds good to put in a tweet that, you know, this group of HBCUs, group of FCS schools can name their price on a media deal. How did that change? Like, you're not even getting the money now they want to pay you just because you say you're FBS. Now ESPN is going to drop a bag on you. How does that work?
Yeah, and I think this is worth the conversation, not necessarily for the move to FBS, but for understanding what the FCS landscape is about to become. Right, it's about to be feast or famine in the FCS. A lot of conferences already aren't making money. A lot of people are damn near paying media companies to come film their games every week. All right, so it's going to become feast or famine. The SWAC can elevate their profile. The MEAC can elevate their profile in this situation, because if you think about name value and nationally how these teams are going to be viewed, a lot of people don't know about Conference USA. A lot of people know about Jackson State. A lot of people know about FAMU. When it comes down to it, HBCUs can take advantage of this time. And I don't know if it's expanding the Celebration Bowl. I know Josh definitely thought about the HBCU playoff. Things like this, that's what's going to generate more money. Understanding that you may not be going to FBS, but you can make the most money out of everybody in FCS if you do it right.
Yeah, because
Oh, go
My
ahead.
bad. Because that's what I'm saying. Because it goes back to this. The reason moving to FBS looks so good for the past 15 years for any FCS school is because obviously you make more money off those TV deals. But like we talked about earlier, that how I forgot exactly how much the Mountain West TV deal is. That divided by 12 schools, good money. What happens when it's divided by 18 or 20? You just had to drop almost 20 million to move up in the first place. And then with the transition rule, you're not even eligible for a bowl game for 5 years. So how many schools can you guys name where HBCUs, FCS programs that are still in the FCS can support their program, forking out at least 20 million, not playing, getting that bowl game revenue for at least 2 to 5 years, depending on, and God forbid you move some of these.
I thought it was only a year.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, it's at least 2, and sometimes it's longer depending on how far you move. NCAA is so inconsistent, but let's say 2 years. Are you ready to qualify for a bowl game in 2 years? Are some of these teams good enough to go 6-6 at the FBS level? The SWAC hasn't beat a group of 5 teams since 1985.
When you talk about recruiting, are you going to really tell a kid we can't play in a bowl game for 2 years and think they're going to want to come?
I don't know. That's a question. These are the questions I want to have answered. It all sounds great. It's forward thinking, all this stuff. But if you don't have all the boxes checked, if you haven't done all the research, man, you can't just say, hey, bro, let's pack up and let's take this risk together. Because sometimes jumping on a sinking ship together just makes the ship sink faster.
That's a bar. That's a bar.
Yeah, gotta be careful. Like we're saying, you gotta be careful right here. If you make a rash decision right here and just blow it up right now, things are going well. Okay, things are going pretty good. As far as FCS conferences go, the SWAC and the MEAC make some of the most money out here. Okay, all these other conferences wish they could play in the Celebration Bowl. So let's not just make this crazy jump just because things are going pretty good.
And I want to run this by you because this is what's really going to happen. So the Mountain West, their members have like a $30 million buyout if they were to leave the Mountain West. So they're not leaving. The Mountain West is full. So none of those Big Sky teams are going anywhere. The lower group of 5 conferences in the South, already full. If they add any more, you're going to be splitting that revenue between like 20 plus teams. That's going to be ridiculous, not worth the financial investment. And the conversation is those fans, like SWAC fans and even FCS fans, are not interested in watching those games in the first place. That's been the whole conversation about out of conference games surrounding FCS football this offseason anyway. And then you look at the ACC, that's dissolving. So you might have some teams even drop down to the Sun Belt, drop down to the AAC who doesn't get picked. And you're going to have the Big Ten, the SEC, and they're going to be licking their lips that the Big 12 can't get this together. But it looks like the Big 12 has enough ammo to at least last a few years. And then what they're going to do is they're going to try to lock out Group of 5s from the FCS playoff. It is going to be a Power 5 playoff. That's what's going to happen. You might get 1 or 2 at-large bids for 100 teams at the Group of 5 level, 85 teams, whatever it may be. Good luck with that. Have fun trying to get into the playoffs at that point because you're already years behind some of the Tulanes and teams that are competing for it right now. I don't see the investment. And at the end of the day, the CUSA and really the lower part of the Sun Belt is just FCS teams masquerading as FBS teams. We talked about this, 2 weeks ago? It's literally, I would not be surprised, and I still predicted the lower group of 5 in the FCS are going to merge, and it's going to kind of rejuvenate some life in FCS. Staying in FCS is much more stable, especially for the SWAC and MEAC right now, than taking that risk and falling flat on your face, because you can lose a whole lot of money and set your athletic program back years if you make the wrong step here.
Right. If you're talking about like these mega conferences, I think the only natural path for them to go is to continue to become like exclusive. The conferences will only grow more exclusive by the year, to the point where, like you're saying, all these teams still need to be in the playoff. Okay, the Big Ten still needs 4 auto bids. Okay, things like that are going to start happening because when you put all these great teams in one batch, you need more than just 2. When you're talking about 12-team playoff, you need more than just 2. And when you talk about trying to fulfill these different TV contracts and show these different matchups, they don't want these Marshalls and UTSAs all up in the college football playoff right now. We're trying to see big boy football between the two biggest conferences from these media brands, the ESPNs and the Fox.
Yeah, and I mean, who runs it? The NCAA doesn't run the college football playoff. People forget this all the time. The NCAA runs the FCS playoffs. The NCAA has zero control over the college football playoff in their committee. Yep. And guess who's sitting in those committee spots?
Come on.
Guess what conferences they're representing? It isn't the CUSA. It isn't the AAC. It is not the Sun Belt, and it's damn sure not the Mountain West. So good luck trying to get a seat at the table.
Right. And you know, like, just I'll say this to end it. Like, I get why they feel like it's so lucrative for HBCUs to go to the FBS, because you want to see that great culture, that great black culture of HBCUs on the biggest stage on national television. However, if you're going to ignore the advice that was said today, please make sure you have your house in order. If you really want to make that jump, please make sure you have your house in order. Most of y'all don't. But just the most important thing to realize is that the grass really isn't greener on the other side right now. Like, if we're being honest, it is more stable to stay at the FCS. I do think, Blue, because you've been saying this for a few weeks, that Group of Five and the FCS look like they can potentially merge. I think that's going to happen a lot sooner than we think. It's really just better to stay where we are right now. So I get it. I get the dream. I see why it's so appealing to y'all, but grass really ain't green on the other side. Next topic, though. Travis Hunter. He already did 1 year at Jackson State. Didn't play much games, but the games that he did play, he showed a lot. I mean, he flashed a lot of greatness. But this is a guy who right now, because he only, I mean, after this year, he's going to be draft eligible. What does he have to do to really obtain a first-round grade? Because this is still a guy who had a lot of praise coming out of high school, tremendous ball skills. After a year right now, let's be honest, man, receiver is where he needs to be, but he's still going to be at corner with Cormani McClain for Coach Prime going this upcoming season. What does he have to do to solidify a first-round grade for himself? Because right now, I wouldn't even know where you even put him at in that conversation when it comes to being particular pro.
This is such a difficult conversation because he plays both ways. So it's kind of a conversation of like, what does he have to do at each position? Now, I do think his ceiling is higher as a wide receiver compared to a corner. But I mean, I guess you're talking, he's just got to continue his development. I think that's it, because we both know if you were a 5-star, #1 player in the country, all this kind of stuff with the hype and athleticism he has, you have to be historically bad not to get a shot. Especially high. Someone's going to take a chance early on him, regardless of what he does. So all you have to do is at least produce at an average level. I don't think he has to go do anything spectacular. If he graduates in 2 years and he's had, I would say, average to above average stats, not Heisman worthy, not All-American worthy, he could still be a first-round pick. I don't think he has to do that much just based on perception. And also people think that his ceiling is out the roof. Even if he doesn't hit that ceiling, someone's going to take a chance on him. We've seen it happen time and time again in the NFL draft.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, corners are a hot commodity right now. Okay. Think about the past Sertans to the J.C. Horns to the Devin Witherspoons, Tariq Woolens. These big rangy corners, they're sought after. Now, the question is, what position is Travis Hunter? Right. I think I need to see another season of him at corner to truly understand which position he should play. I think he's a better wide receiver. So I'd like to see him honestly play more. But when it comes to the NFL, though, as long as he can show that he can do it at a high level on one side of the ball, the NFL, essentially, they look at players like they can choose their position. You know, they move quarterbacks to receiver all the time. They move running backs to receiver, receivers to running back. They do what they want to do, right? When it comes to making it in the NFL, it's about what type of skill sets you can show that are elite on a professional level. And if Travis continues to show elite catching ability, if he continues to show elite speed, those certain things will get you looked at. Now, becoming a first-round talent is all going to be about how he plays at Colorado. He's going to have to give a great output with being real. You look at the past first-round picks that have been corners, the Devin Witherspoons, guys are shutting down the whole side of the field. You know, they're feeling pops. So Travis is going to need one of those years for sure.
But, you know, like, I just think back to the Celebration Bowl, and that's really what did it for me. Like before that, it was that catch it all corner, right? But the celebration mode is what did it for me. He just needs to be at receiver. It's clear this is what he is now. He's not a bad corner at all, you know. But the first play, the first big play of the game for North Carolina Central was on who? Travis. Like he's not a bad corner, but when I see him catching the game, the catch to send the game into overtime, when I see him making that toe drag catch versus Alcorn, when I see him catching that pass on the sideline and just moving in slow motion, and dude just passing him and him going, I'm saying to myself, how much more do you need for him to prove that he's a receiver and not a cornerback? Like, I get it. You got Kamar, you got Cormani, you want Travis as well, especially going into this season. You just need all the help you can get. But man, let's be real with it, man. The receiver is where he need to be at for me. I would take a chance. I would definitely draft a first-round receiver. First round at corner, I got to think about it.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I mean, because to me, could he be an NFL corner? Probably. But I don't think he could ever be, what's his name, a Gardner for the Jets. I don't think he could be a Jalen Ramsey. I don't think he can hit that level at corner. But he could be one of the elite wide receivers at that level if he continues to develop, put on a little bit more weight. I think his ceiling is higher at wide receiver, but he can be a great player at either position. He could get further as a wide receiver.
It really is tackling on defense. So it kind of turns me off to the point where I'm like, you have great size, you have great hands, great ball skills, but the tackling is kind of lacking at that size, which, you would grade other corners probably higher than him because of that. But his receiving ability is just through the roof. You know what I mean? His playmaking, his speed. I think about him, he could be like a special teams guy. When I think about guys that go both ways, I think about my old teammate, Adoree Jackson. You know what I mean? What he did at USC and playing corner and playing receiver and return. I think if Travis continues to excel in the return game, get back on some punts or something like that, I think that helps push his draft stock up even more because he is that gadget guy. He can play any position on there. So go ahead, let him go.
I will say that I think this year at Jackson State, it helped him at receiver, but at corner, it's like people didn't really want to test him for most of the game. And then when they did, they caught him napping. So that's why you seen him getting beat. And on the plays where they were going at him, it's like he's so risky, like at corner. Like he will take that chance. He's not gonna be like a conservative guy. That's what led to him, giving up a lot of those plays. I just think corner's where he needs to be. But next topic. And I want to be serious about this. All right. Lee Corso is being taken advantage of by College Game Day. This man.
Oh man.
Listen, man. Listen. Lee Corso, I love him. He's a staple of college football live. Okay, but at some point we got to consider this man's health. How old is he? He's not getting better, man. And I just feel like we're at a point now where they keep forcing him to get up and make these picks just to appease everybody watching. It's hard for me to watch now. He's not the same. He's not the same, bro. So what we doing? Do y'all feel like I don't feel like he's the same.
I think you're tripping. I think you're tripping a little bit. Now I'll explain though. No, hang on. I'll explain. I'll explain. You're right. Is his health great? No. Is he the same guy? No. But if you think for 1 second ESPN's forcing him to do this,
no, I don't think they. I don't think they're forcing him.
Bro, he's earned it, bro. He's earned his spot. For a fact, he probably went to them and was like, "Listen, even if I can't be on the show full time, I want to do this. My headgear picks for the longest possible." For a fact he did. He doesn't that's his thing, and it takes what I think they should do, and this is my conspiracy theory. The reason they're going to get Pat McAfee is to replace Lee Corso because they need a lighthearted, funny type of dude to step into that spot. But man, that's his trademark. And if he came to ESPN and said, I can't do the full show, but I want to do this one segment, I'm for it, man. Let that dude live out his dream and continue to do it as long as he wants. As long as he wants.
All right. Look, I know his heart is in it, Blue. I get it. You know what I mean? He loves his job. You know what I mean? He wakes up every morning, thinks about it. Saturdays is his day. I get it. You know what I mean? But when Kirk Herbstreit is like propping this dude up midway through the segments, it's kind of hard to watch. You know what I mean? And I like Lee Corso. I like the whole, throwing the helmet on and throwing the mask on. It's hella dope, right? But like, I think Kobe's right, man. The homie is getting up there. Like
I'm with you. But okay, so let me ask you: would it change your opinion if they did it like COVID, where he didn't have to travel and they just went to him at his home? Like, you remember how the setup they had during COVID and last year? Like, what if they just zoomed him in and he got to make his pick with the headgear? Would that be cooler with y'all?
The zoom him in, put him on the jumbotron. We love it. You know what I mean? Like, prop him up.
Like that's probably what all they're doing. Like, I don't think he's going to be traveling with the team all year long.
All right. I actually like what you said, Blue. He don't have to do the whole show because he ain't even contributed much to me at this point.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to do the whole show because you even saw last year there were times where they brought McAfee, other people in to kind of take his spot, and they only used him in certain spot. Like, that's what I think he's going to be. He's going to be like, who's the dude? Is it the Bear that does like the point spreads and stuff for like 1 or 2 segments every game day? He's going to be like Tim. He's going to have his own special segment and they'll just go to that one time. Or like the dude who does the food. Forgot which guy was going out there and getting like tailgate or whatever. That's what they're probably going to do, I would imagine. And you'll probably see him have a less and less role. But to me, he's done his time. And I think what the especially with all the layoffs, the last thing ESPN could do was walk him out the back door, fire him, tell him to step down. The PR would be ridiculous. So let him do his one segment. Let this man live out his dream. And he's been doing it for 950 years. One more isn't going to hurt him.
And look, I don't mean to be dark either, but like, okay, once it's time for him to retire, would y'all like to see somebody else putting the helmets on and the mascots hats on?
You gotta figure something out. I need like Pat McAfee with like a bazooka and like shoot it up into the air. It's like we got to take it a step up, like from what we're doing. Like, we can't just have the headgear. It won't be the same.
Doing that with somebody else is like recasting Chadwick for Black Panther. You just got to move on. You can't.
Right.
You can't do it, bro.
Just kill the character off.
All right. So next topic. Who's more likely to win a national championship in the next 5 years? Michigan, LSU, Notre Dame, or USC? Me personally, I'm going to go with Michigan. I love what John Harbaugh is doing. I am still a believer in QB1 for Michigan. I've been high on him when he first committed. I'm going to stick with him right now, even though the last game in the playoffs wasn't his best performance, but he did show some strides there still. I'm going to go with Michigan just because I love what he's on, but I wouldn't mind saying, I know y'all might say USC. I wouldn't mind going LSU before USC, but what's the pick to y'all?
It's a one answer. LSU. It's LSU. Because statistically, I know Kelly's going to hate this. Kelly's going to hate this so much. I wish my other guy was here, my SEC guy. The SEC wins a lot of national championships. And LSU was 1 game away from getting there last year. With Brian Kelly's first year with a transfer quarterback, he's been recruiting at a high level. LSU's got the best chance because when I look at the other ones, Harbaugh has not shown. Listen, Michigan has not shown they can win a national title in this era.
He was almost there last year.
He was there, bro. I think they would have got the same work TCU did the week after. I don't think they would have been ready for that. And then Notre Dame, man, Marcus Freeman's got to show me something. They lost to Marshall last year. I think we're a long way away from winning a national title right now at Notre Dame. And then USC, they're moving to the Big Ten. I need to see them win in the snow first. Because what's going to happen if they got to go travel to Wisconsin on November 16th and it's -5 and there's 15 feet of snow on the ground?
And they're running the ball.
Those dudes, yeah. And Wisconsin's running Wisconsin's on play 79 of halfback power to the left. And they don't know what to do with it. Like, I need to see them win that type of game. Wisconsin's thrown half a pass for the entire game. Their running back has 360 on 72 carries. I don't know if they're ready for that, man.
Tapping the helmet like this.
Yes, it's a different level of football.
Give me out. But look. Okay, look. We can forecast, okay, and think about the future with the Big Ten. But the Big Ten is ever changing. We can't forget. They could go to a pod system. They could go to a division system. Now we have 4 teams along the coast, right? Who knows what those changes in the next year, 12 months? Who knows? But this year, USC has the best chance to win a championship. If I'm looking at Michigan, you got to rely on J.J. McCarthy's development. I wouldn't bank on that. Especially with the first 4 games without your head coach. Like, it might be developing the wrong way. When you look at LSU, I do like LSU. You know, California quarterbacks run the world. Jaden Daniels is down there at LSU doing his thing. He's one of the top 5 quarterbacks in college football right now. Harold Perkins is a great defender. LSU has been amassing talent for a couple of years. But Jaden Daniels, you know, he sometimes kind of pacifies himself and doesn't take a lot of risk in it. But I do think that Jaden Daniels could get him to a championship and could make a run. But give me USC, give me the Heisman Trophy winner.
The Big 12 just officially added Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah. That's confirmed.
Yo,
I got my all black on for a reason, man. It's a funeral today.
R.I.P. Pac-12, man. It was a good run. It was a damn good run.
Yeah, that's great. But also, the only reason I didn't pick USC, the reason I didn't pick USC is because I don't think any of these teams win it this year. None of these teams are better than Georgia. So I'm trying to like project over the next 2, 3, 4 years. That's the only reason I'm projecting, because let's add Georgia to this, and I'm picking them.
All right.
You know what?
I don't know. I'll say that. I don't know. Lincoln Riley, year 2, his defense may look different in year 1. But if it looks like year 1, then I'm with you. So I'm going to hold that till like maybe week 4-ish. Then I'll know.
Are we so sure that they'll get there for a 3rd time this year? Are we so sure in that?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. I mean, who is on their level right now? Like, take the quarterback question out of it. Roster for roster, position. Who's more talented than Georgia?
No, I get what you're saying. Regular season, of course, they'll blow through that, but like just playoffs,
because my thing is, you know, like in the early like 2010s, it felt like Saban had like mind control over other teams. They'd look great, and then coming into that Bama game, it was just like they would like hype themselves up so much because they were playing Bama. Kirby's getting Georgia to that level where they've been so consistent, so good over the past. So they've won 2 in a row, and they've been to like 3 out of the last 4 national championships and been to the playoffs like 4 consecutive times. They're getting to that level, and they're recruiting. Bro, have you looked at their class recently? I mean, they're landing like the top 3 players at like multiple positions. I mean, it's just an ignorant level of recruiting. And then you got Muschamp on the staff, not even a coordinator. I mean, you got like legit head coaches. I mean, he's the only, I guess, Saban assistant to take what Saban did and like actually apply it to another school. And he did it at Georgia, that has just as many resources, just as passionate fan base, in a loaded, probably an even more loaded recruiting state than Bama has, because the talent in Georgia trumps what in high school in Alabama. So you have a deeper pipeline, and Alabama's in-state rival Auburn has been able to challenge them a little bit, even through the dynasty that they've had. Let me ask y'all, in 10 years, do y'all think Georgia Tech even comes close to beating Georgia in the next 10 years?
No way.
No.
So they don't even have real in-state competition. That's the thing, is like, that's why this Georgia dynasty could get real scary.
Yeah, I mean, it's only a couple questions I have about the dynasty, but I give them respect this year just based on the fact they won the last 3 or 4. But even moving forward, though, the big thing about Saban's whole legacy and really with Alabama's team is their coaching staff. It was a revolving door, but they continued to bring in great assistants, bring in the Sarkisians, the Lane Kiffins. I'd be interested to see what this coaching tree looks like at Georgia, you know what I mean, over the past 3 or 4 years in the future. So that's gonna be it. You know, you lose Todd Monken down to Baltimore Ravens this year. You know, things like that is gonna happen when you have such a great team. So just bringing in more good guys is gonna be a big thing for Georgia.
Because he lost Mel Tucker, who's done pretty well at Michigan State. He lost Sam Pittman to Arkansas, who, I mean, he hasn't been great, but it's hard to win at Arkansas. I felt like he's done pretty well at Arkansas for the most part. Yes. I'm trying to think, was there anyone else that? So it was. I know it was Mel Tucker. It was Sam Pittman. It was the offensive coordinator who just left for the NFL. Has he lost really anyone else?
Not much.
Which is pretty impressive given the amount of success that they've had, that they've only really lost 3 big assistants.
Right. They got some long money down there, UGA, man.
That's a fact. That is a fact.
All right, so moving on. What's one out of conference game that you just can't wait to see next season that you think is going to be a great matchup? I'm gonna go LSU, Florida State. Okay, just because last year FSU winning 23-24. Beat the SEC West champions. I think this go round with Jordan Travis. These are two teams who are gonna have at least 10 wins at least by season's end. I think it's gonna be a great matchup, man.
I'm trying to scroll through now and just make sure I'm not missing any.
Blue got a list.
You can go ahead, Kelly. I'm just trying to think. I want to make sure.
All right, so Texas A&M and at Miami, September 9th.
Ooh.
Like the wobbler of the year. I don't know what either one of these teams are. Both these coaches got a lot to lose. Somebody going to end up losing something out of this job. And it's at Miami. It's always good to see big games at Miami. We're used to seeing Florida State at Miami or Florida Gators. So getting to see Texas A&M at Miami going to be dope. Another matchup I like that I think, it's a long shot. It's a long shot. It's going to be UTSA at Tennessee. And it's really all based on the fact that I like the quarterback, Frank Harris, bro. Frank Harris, UTSA, he's like that. Nice little lefty. He gets it done. It's going to be at Tennessee. It's going to be super rocking. I want to see what Joe Milton is. I don't know what he is. He has a big arm. People say that he's thrown the ball 90 yards. Doesn't matter when he's playing a football game, though. If Joe Milton can't get it together, I know my boy Frank Harris is, right? So I think that could be a good game early in the season.
So you like that matchup for the quarterback battle or because you think this could potentially be an upset?
I think potential upset if Joe Milton doesn't get it together, right? The whole reason why he hasn't been starting is because he can't get it started, right? So if he can't get it started here, this is where he loses his job to Nico.
Oh, yeah, that's coming. Nico's coming.
And I did forget Dan Lanning. That should have been your catch, Kobe. Your coach came from Georgia.
Sure it is. DC. It's true.
How we forget that?
I did forget that.
That's tough. That's a tough look. I ain't gonna lie. I guess for me, looking out of conference, obviously I am a little bit interested in Auburn's out of conference game against Cal. Man, it's been a long time since we played on the West Coast.
Whoa.
First year head coach, new quarterback, all that stuff. But I think another one, man, Texas traveling to Alabama, man, interests me so much, especially after what happened last year. Man, because you're looking at it if Quinn Ewers doesn't get hurt, Texas probably gets away with that win. And I think they know that. So if they can stay healthy with all the talent they brought in, and this myth that assistants can't beat Saban has kind of been broken over these past few years. Does that help Sark a little bit that he doesn't have that, that pressure on him to be the first assistant to beat Saban? That's going to be super interesting to me because I think Texas is going to come in saying, we let them off the hook last year. We know we can compete with this team. And Bama has a lot of questions. QB questions, running back questions. They brought in some good wide receivers in the transfer portal, but they haven't played together. O-line, you got a lot of new guys stepping in. Defensive line, how do you replace Will Anderson? Now, Dallas Turner's a monster. Let's just be honest. But across from him, who do you have? Linebacker, you got some new faces stepping up. They got some holes. And so does Texas come in there and surprise? Because we're going to learn a lot about Alabama week 2 when Texas rolls into town. Plus, it's a 6 p.m. kickoff at Bryant-Denny. Man, there's going to be 102,000 fans, and they are going to be as loud as possible, and I can't wait for it.
When I think about that matchup, man, I think about just the big energy games that you see in Bryant-Denny Stadium over the years, like when Johnny Manziel showed up to Bama, the LSU Bama game with Tua and those guys. So,
that was such an amazing game.
Yes, bro, I think of the CBS intro playing. I think of Gus Johnson. I think of just plays galore. You're right.
And it's on CBS. It's the night CBS game.
Oh, my God.
I can't wait. So you get the CBS production, too, and I love it.
Okay.
There's a lot of games. There's a lot of games. I got to dig into it. I'm going to find some more to it. It's a lot of games.
Yeah. I guess it's a conference matchup now, but I still think of it as out of conference because they're new. UCF traveling to Kansas State is going to be such a good game. With Gus Malzahn, I want to say that's his first P5 game on that schedule. I really want to see what UCF can do. Some of these new Big 12 teams, I really want to see what they have. Does that step up, or do they take a step back, or do they really match it? Could they compete to win that championship year one?
Yeah, that's big. There's so many big matchups. I see this Colorado versus TCU in here. That's another great matchup. That's a matchup where TCU's answering questions and Colorado's answering questions at the same time early in the season.
Yeah.
So who knows what we're gonna get?
Ohio State, Notre Dame. Ohio State's got to go on the road to South Bend. And Notre Dame just landed Sam Hartman. We got some QB questions over at Ohio State. That game's gonna be so good.
Y'all don't think Kyle McCord reuniting with Marvin Harrison Jr. like on the field? You don't think that could be a little something?
It can be, but I got to see it.
Okay.
I think it'll work. I'm not sure how long it'll take for it to work, but I think it'll work. It can't be that hard to throw to Marvin Harrison, can it?
Just get it like in the vicinity, and he can go get it.
Can't we do that?
All right. And what does he still have? Ibuka?
Yeah, Ibuka also. Yeah, they got a great receiving core.
Yeah, no, he'll be fine. He'll be just fine. All right, so week 1 matchup, College Game Day is already announced. USC versus the Tar Heels in Charlotte. I feel like we should play for Carolines, but unfortunately, that's not a part of the deal. I'm going to go with the Gamecocks. Yeah. I'm going to go with the Gamecocks. Shocker.
Gamer boys.
I'm putting stock back in Spencer Rattler.
Gamer boys, look at them. Gamer boys.
Stock back in Spencer. Yeah, I know people ain't going to like me saying that. I know people have already given up on. I'm putting stock back in them. I think give me Beamer ball. All right. Give me Beamer ball over them. Give me Beamer ball over Clemson. I think this is going to be a great year, bro. I think this is going to be a really good year for the Gamecocks, starting off with the win in Charlotte.
I need you to show us your.
The Gamecocks have won the last 7 out of 9 meetings versus UNC, right?
Awesome.
Yeah. So give me.
I need to see your. I need to see your Beamer ball tattoo, man. I know you got one somewhere. I don't know where you got it hidden, but man, you riding a little bit too hard for South Carolina. You got a shirt you're gonna wear on that show?
I just when that game comes up, I'm going South Carolina every time. Like I'm not.
Yeah. Listen, I agree with Jordan. Drake May is going to light that secondary up. It's a wrap.
Wow.
I think UNC runs away with it.
Runs away with it?
Yeah.
This is a Drake May thing.
Yes.
Sounds like.
Yes, it is. He's that good, and he's that much better than Spencer Rattler. And on top of that,
I'm not debating he's better, but I mean, I'm not giving him a blowout win.
I think they win by 10 plus. I don't know if you consider that a blowout, but I think they win by double digits.
Well, look, my first question is, how does UNC manage to get like this week 0, week 1 ESPN matchup every year for the past like 8 years? That's my first question.
Well, isn't this the Duke's Mayo Classic?
Yeah, it is.
Right. It's okay. That makes a little more sense. Because I mean, like last year they did it with FAMU. They've been doing this for a while. Mm-hmm. But aside from that, North Carolina, as a team, Blue, do you think they're better than South Carolina? Or do you just think this mainly Drake May? Drake May is going to Drake May, and Spencer Rattler is just going to stink it up.
It's a little bit of both. I think they're about right on par with South Carolina talent wise, and I think Drake May is going to be the X factor. Where even if he had a team that was a little less talented, yeah, I think he can go ball out, and I think he's going to get the win.
No, it makes sense. When I think of this matchup, I go, okay, I think it's going to come down to the quarterbacks. I think it'll come down to performance. Like, it's a big game. This is the first game of the season. It's going to take quarterback leadership to win this game. And Spencer Rattler ended last year hot, super hot. Drake May's coming in this year, super hot. So this was really a wobbler to me. You know, trying to understand, like, who's really going to take it? This is a wobbler. I'd be interested to see who's going to be the favorite.
This is a must-win for UNC, though, because the next week Appalachian State comes to town, and we already talked about how scary that game is going to be. So you can't be starting 0-2.
Right.
Listen, they bet not. I don't. Why do people continue to put them on the schedule, bro? I'm legit scared.
I'm blocking their number.
Appalachian State is what Georgia Southern was back in the day when they were FCS. I'm scared to put them on the schedule. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not playing them. Listen, the number's blocked. I'm unplugging the fax machine. Don't contact me. Like, I don't want to play. I don't care. They got to pay me. If I'm a Power 5 team, I need to check if the Mountaineers are coming to town.
Basically.
Mr. Connor Johnson Nah, I mean to bring down the vibe. Nah, you ain't brought down the vibe, other than you being a Beaver fan.
Hey, Connor, I need the Beavs to go win up there in Oregon this
It's
year.
not gonna happen.
Get that
It's
win the
not.
last week. I hope Oregon
Get the
beats
chainsaws
USC.
out.
I hope Oregon goes undefeated, beats USC. They go into last week thinking about playoffs. The Beavs steal it from them. Take it right away. DJU comes out, throws for 350, 4 tubs, and it's a wrap.
Listen, that's wishful thinking. It won't happen. We got Bo, and Bo we trust. He will be in New York for the Heisman celebration.
Do you know how much I've said that? I've said that before, and my heart was broken. Beating Oregon, I said that.
Listen,
wow.
He's different here. All right, he's not who he was at Auburn. He's different here. We have reformed him. He's going to lead us to victory. All right, USC don't want to see us. Utah don't. Washington dub. Oregon State, you can say revenge tour all you want. I promise you, y'all don't want it with us this year. All right, everybody knows who was really the king of the Pac-12 anyway. I mean, y'all had your little moments, but it was always us. Let's be for real.
They're the king of the jerseys, man. King of the jerseys. They come with 15 of them every year, for their little Tostitos bowl at the end of the year. But the real kings is the USC. But what I will say, we kind of looked over all this expansion talk. Dan Lanning had something to say about Colorado leaving, and they caught the craziest straight ever.
Oh, my goodness.
He asked, he goes, has Colorado, ever won anything while they've been here?
They really haven't. He wasn't wrong. I get what he was saying. He's not wrong. I mean,
hey, you got to cue the Stephen A. Smith clip. I mean, he's not wrong, but you didn't have to say it.
Yeah, we all knew what
that was mean.
We were all thinking it, but you didn't have to publicize it. And then Prime took a shot at him today.
Oh,
Prime was like, "Wait, the same guy who said we were leaving is also leaving." But I was like, he's going to the Big Ten. He's going to play Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. Y'all are going to play Baylor.
Right.
And no shot at Baylor, but it's different levels, bro.
He's playing UCF and Cincinnati, bro. It's way different. Look, the craziest part is they took that shot, then left the conference too. He just wanted to take a shot at you guys. Not at anybody else. Colorado, why do we need them?
Which is why I pray to God we see that matchup sooner rather than later. I don't care if it's in a bowl game. I just need to see it. I need to see those two face to face.
Coach Prime has so many. Coach Prime has so many Power 5 coaching friends. He's just amassing so many of them. They might start a whole group chat about them.
All right. It's time to end the show with overreaction, not an overreaction. Man, no. I think we have one more, right, for Auburn.
Yeah.
Regarding y'all's quarterback situation. Let's get on Auburn, shall we? All right. Thorne. And then, of course, you got Robbie Ashford. There's been some reports that first of all, when I went back and read the articles, they said Thorne was taking reps with the ones a day ago. So I don't know if that's settled already, but maybe the competition's still going on. You giving Thorne the nod, though?
Yeah. I think so. I mean, you look at Thorne. I mean, he didn't play bad at Michigan State. People forget he was on that team that with Kenneth Walker that played pretty well and went and won some road games and made some big throws. Statistically, he's looked fine. He's a step up from Ashford. Now, what I have been hearing, Ashford's going to have packages. Bro, the kid is a freak athlete. He's going to be on the field. That kid is just that good athletically, but passing fundamental wise, he's just not there. From what I'm hearing. But also, if there's a guy who can take someone who isn't really refined, like a Malik Willis, and turn him into a dog, it's Hugh Freeze and Philip Montgomery. So that's why I think people aren't counting Ashford out. But I would be surprised they didn't go get Peyton Thorne after spring for no reason. When you go and get a quarterback after spring, you know what that says. Your quarterback couldn't play. Same reason Alabama went out and got another quarterback after spring, because Saban was worried. And it's probably that guy's job to lose is going to be Thorne. Ashford's probably going to get some time. The good thing for Auburn is week 1, you have UMass. Me, you, and Kelly could all suit up at quarterback and probably go beat UMass on that Auburn team. Then week 2, you got Cal, a tough trip, but a team that's not really good. I mean, they haven't really been good in a long time. And then week 3, you got your FCS game. So you got 3 games that you are going to be favorited in that you probably can get both guys some reps before you have to travel to A&M week 4. And then even with A&M, they got the talent, but they damn sure ain't proved anything on the field yet. So that might be a game you could be favored in. So, and then week 5, if I'm not mistaken, we got Georgia. You need to have it figured out before Georgia comes into town.
Well, look, I'll say this. Since he's been hired, this has been relieved, and this pressure has been relieved, right? Auburn is always like this so tense feeling about, should we fire the head coach because he can't find a quarterback, or should we fire the offensive coordinator? Now, look, everything is cool right now, Blue. But around week 5 or week 6, I want to understand the true expectation that Auburn has for Hugh Freeze. If it's a winning season in year 1, what type of pressures will Thorne end up going through during the season? Do they make the switch to Ashford just based on the fact that I need more time at this, right? I got to show everybody that I need more time. And just because Thorne can't get it done, I'll throw Ashford in there and allow him to develop. So I'm interested to see how early Ashford gets a chance to go out there and really run with the first team offense and do it. I don't really think they'll finish the season starting Thorne. I think that they know that Ashford is the guy of the future. He is more of a Hugh Freeze guy, like you're saying, Blues, kind of more of the Malik Willis, really athletic and strong arm. But I could understand that, him not being refined. And you know how they usually do with freshmen or really young quarterbacks. They give them time throughout the season, give them a couple reps in different packages. And at the end of the season or midway through, they give them the reins.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting because I think in terms of pressure, Freeze kind of bought himself some time with how he's recruited. Man, like not looking at just average recruit rank in your commitment class. In 2024, Auburn's 4th in the country, only behind Ohio State, Georgia, and Bama. You flipped a 5-star from Georgia out of an in-state kid. You flip a 5-star wide receiver from Bama, and you're a finalist for 5-star KJ Bolden this weekend. Man,
it feels like that kid has been holding out forever. Okay.
Yeah, he's announced on Saturday. And supposedly it's a Georgia-Auburn race. If Hugh Freeze lands a 3rd 5-star after flipping one from Georgia, flipping one from Bama, and then beats Bama and Georgia for a 5-star out of Buford, Georgia, there ain't no pressure. Keep the recruiting class together, and you'll be just fine because you're looking at a class that if you land KJ and some of the other guys are projected to land, bro, you got like a top 5 recruiting class, not off of average recruit rank. That's a top 5 class in the country. And man, we all know, even first-year head coaches, if you're recruiting at a high level, that takes a lot of the pressure off on the field.
Thanks.
All right. So to end the show, y'all know what we always do: overreaction, not an overreaction. I'll read a statement. You just say whether it's an overreaction or not an overreaction. It's pretty simple for those of y'all who are watching for the first time. So overreaction, not overreaction. We don't even have much. Tate Martell was the most overhyped prospect in the past decade.
Oh, that's tough. You got to send these to us beforehand because I got to do some research. Because you got like Byron Cowart, who was the number 1 player in the country, who went to Auburn and never ended up having to transfer to Maryland. Like you got a lot of 5-stars who didn't pan out. Because who was the kid at USC, the quarterback who was the number 1 player in the country? It was like in the early 2010s or something like that.
Max Brown?
I want to say yes because he was super
going to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he was super hyped and ended up doing nothing. So I mean, but Tate Martell was. Yeah, Tate Martell was super hyped though. That's kind of in between for me because the reason he was so hyped is he had that Netflix show. What was it? The one that Justin
Beyond the Lights.
Yeah. Like so I think that kind of added to it. So that probably makes it not an overreaction. But I think in terms of overall prospect, I don't think Tate Martell was looked at as like a generational talent and it didn't turn out.
I mean, I gotta say, social media wise, he for sure was the most overhyped prospect, man. Like through Instagram, the highlights, the seeing Bishop Gorman, watching him juke people, you know what I mean? Because it's kind of like everybody's been looking for Cody Paul since like early 2000s. So coming across Tate Martell was like the wow moment. And he was a big recruit, super big recruit. So much that everybody followed him to every school he went to, all 4 of them. So
remember, they took a trip to Cedar Hill in Texas, and he went viral for like trying to jump over 3 guys.
Yeah,
just a stupid play that wasn't gonna work, but like he went viral anyway.
Right, man, what a player.
All right, so overreaction, not an overreaction. USC is gonna be a lifetime 500 team. They not gonna
go ahead, Kelly.
They just gonna be right there.
Wait, what lifetime? So hold on, explain to me this lifetime.
Like once they move to the Big Ten, like they're not going to get over 500.
Yeah, like once they get to their new conference, they just gonna be a lifetime 500 team. Like,
Easily overreaction, right?
Overreaction.
That's
man.
crazy.
Overreaction. This is some egg Twitter profile that follows 8,000 people.
It was the whole graphic made too, like literally. And
wow.
Last one. Cormani McClain and Travis Hunter will actually surprise the conference and be one of the top duos in that conference.
In the conference?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Like, are there any DB units that are loaded in the pack? Like, I don't know if that's like a steep.
It's not a steep hill.
Yeah, I'm gonna say not an overreaction, just because I can't think of like an elite cornerback duo, because Oregon just lost their top corner to the draft last year. USC, their secondary has been the issue for a long time. Utah lost Clark Phillips.
Yep.
So I don't think that's not an overreaction for me, just because the bar isn't high. Now, if you said the country, probably an overreaction, because there's some mean cornerback duos out there. But in the Pac-12, I'm gonna say not an overreaction.
I'm gonna say overreaction because I don't think the Buffalo defense is gonna be that good. I think this Colorado defense might be trash. And when it's trash, the DBs look terrible. We all know that. So I mean, I can't name any other duos that's better on paper right now. But I think when it comes down to playing in between the lines, I don't think they're gonna be the top duo.
All right, well, there y'all have it, man. Thank y'all so much for tuning in to episode 16 of FBS Friday. Like I said, Clay couldn't be here today. Work called him up, but we still had a great show. The most viewers we had yet for this series. So thank y'all for tuning in, man. I really appreciate it. Tune in next Friday as we do this every Friday, every other Friday during the off season. But it's going to get back to more being more consistent out. The season is finally upon us. Yeah, man. All right, anything y'all want to say before we leave?
Nah, man, I'm good. I'm just ready for football to start. I'm tired of all the all-season talk. I just need a game.
Come on, man. It's football season, baby. We getting head coach interviews. We getting mic'd up players.
Yes.
We getting some people walking out the locker room with tight music. Like we getting everything right now. It's finally football season again. We waited all summer for this, boys. It's here, dog. It's here.
Did y'all watch the Hall of Fame game?
Yes.
Yep.
What y'all think of Dorian Thompson-Robinson?
He looks good. I just don't know if he because I don't think he might be the future, because I don't know how much longer Deshaun Watson has. Like, he's got to show me something this year. Like, and I hate it because Deshaun Watson, like, he was on such an upward trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like that off-field situation happened. He's kind of like Tiger Woods right now, where it's like he can't get what he had back. So I'm really hoping we see like the full potential of Deshaun Watson come back this year. So, but worst case, if they have to move on from Deshaun Watson, he looks like he's a promising young player.
Yeah, they got to have some packages for him this year. You see how even he's so competitive in the read option game. He did the same thing at UCLA too, by the way. Like, if people go back and see, he's like consistently like lead blocking on read options. Like, it's kind of weird, but they score touchdowns with it, right? So really with DTR, he's going to be a nice safety blanket for Deshaun Watson. I wish Deshaun Watson played in the preseason, but DTR looked great, bro.
That's why I want to see what you was gonna say, because you played in the West Coast for about 4-5 years. I was waiting to see what you was gonna say.
About 7 of them.
Yeah, kidding.
Hey, man, we'll catch y'all next Friday. Thank y'all so much for tuning in, man. We out.
Peace.
Peace.